Here's one prayer that I've been learning to pray after I got what I thought I wanted a few too many times. Lord, give me the strength and the courage to bear my cross all the way to the death of all my sick selfishness. I want to know the Christ, the power of his resurrection, the fellowship of sharing in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow to receive this resurrection from the dead. And if you've truly been praying that prayer to God and you've become like your own worst critic, then it really can't matter at some point, possibly after many years, what other people say about you. Because you know you have this honest relationship with yourself and, of course, an honest relationship with God, because you know deep in your heart that you're opening your heart up to change. And no matter how selfish or weird or wrong you may look to other people on the outside, and also if you've been asking for help from many, many resources, which I also have, then that kind of eliminates at some point the self-hate and unnecessary self-criticism. Taking up the cross is the deepest spiritual practice I know. Jesus told us the truth, and that is why I call Jesus the Son of God. Any other practice just leaves me clanging my gong. I also understand, desire. The Lord has certainly allowed Eve to take me to the end of myself a number of times. Thank God for those lessons, huh? And when I say Eve, I'm just talking about the metaphorical Eve, of course, the difficulty that men have with women and women have with men, and the way we feed each other fruit that may or may not be helpful to one another. God's wisdom hides true love behind the cross. It's a painful game of peekaboo in which we finally realize who we truly are. And that's why I say there is nothing good in me except for him. Our path to his resurrection in us is brutal and terrible and offensive to our false self. We can't go out and conquer it. We can't go out and get it, especially in a woman. I mention these things because you have shared so generously your insights and criticisms about shallow Christian culture as you see it all around you every day. I, too, am very interested in living and communicating the true depths of God's message. Turns out, I can't communicate love until I am willing and ready to die at every turn. It's the only way to truly live. And yes, it is very intense and impossible to accomplish in our own strength. Everything true is behind the death of self, and the cross shows us the way to that death. And the self is unable to accomplish it, although we may gain insight and depth in trying. It's good to exhaust ourselves in our attempts, and God reveals a lot to us about ourselves and others and the world in those attempts. The beautiful thing about living is the terrible truth about life. We've taken it already into our souls, and our petty arguments now just take a great exhausting toll on us. And in that exhaustion, we may surrender to our death. Every Eve has showed me the way. Thank God for all those relationships. At least, that is how I've come to read the sacred texts after 28 years of ridiculous and exhausting selfishness. God be glorified. I died for every Eve I was ever given. I heard someone say, "Husbands, die for your wives like Christ died for the church." I took that very seriously when I heard that. Guess what? Eve couldn't give a shit in the same way that we, as a people, hardly want to truly give a shit about Christ's death for us. We would rather go to church and feel justified in our own self-righteousness. But Jesus, he had me pray that prayer when I was 25 years old. I want to know the Christ, the power of his resurrection, the fellowship of sharing in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow to receive his resurrection from the dead. And that is about as intense and deep as I am capable of getting. If I'm going to speak the truth, that is where I go. The basic question is this: can you hang on a cross in pain and humiliation and forgive simultaneously? If your answer is no, welcome to the club. That's the human condition. Jesus did it for us, and by his grace, we are instructed to allow it to happen again in us, even though it may not be a literal cross. Life hurts like hell, and we are to love our way through it. Peekaboo. Of course, Jesus was the first one who ever suggested that I enter into this impossible practice, the deepest spiritual practice I know. And he was saying it to me for many years before I ever really got it. He healed me and comforted me through the Holy Spirit many times and took me along a long path of education before I was really ready to accept that truth. I had to suffer intensely. I went to a psych unit and a couple of mental health care facilities before I was ready to hear it for real. So if somebody wants to criticize me, if somebody wants to say I'm some kind of charlatan or some kind of scammer, I won't argue with them. I can't argue with them. That's their prerogative. But I know in my heart the path that I've been on. Also, you can't serve money and God simultaneously. Therefore, we made up a false religion so that we could sell real estate and Cadillacs while pretending that we love God. One of the last times I tried to be a part of a church, the pastor told me I needed to go get a job before he even knew my medical and mental health history. I went to a monastery recently, and they asked me if I had any mental health issues. Are you kidding me? Mental health issues are a prerequisite for following Christ, last I read the New Testament. He came for the sick, the broken, the downtrodden, the oppressed, the poor in spirit, those who grieve. And yet the rich folks think they are in charge of administrating the finances, the tithes that their congregations give to the church. You know all of this and more, I'm sure. We are to be able to speak this truth to false authority in love, and that is the journey that the Holy Spirit has been walking me through, step by step, because if we can't say it in love, then we can't really say it at all. May the Lord bless you and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, be gracious to you, and give you peace.